What's up everybody, welcome back to a brand new video on Lexalexus. As of yesterday we did the Championship predictions, and as normal today we are doing the Premier League predictions and normal procedures. Make sure you leave your score predictions in the comments down below if you guys want to have a chance to compete in the Lexalexus Football Prediction League. Updates will come around in the community tab, so make sure you put notifications on so you don't miss a single one of any of my posts, because then you could see your name on a leaderboard. And as I'm talking about that, please also smash that like button and hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. It really does help the growth of this channel, so we're trying to get to 1,200 subscribers as soon as we can. Without any further ado, however, let's start going through my Premier League predictions for match day 15. So the first game to go and predict for this weekend is Leeds versus Bournemouth. I'm going to be very excited about this one. Leeds, obviously, they had that incredible win over Liverpool, a result that I don't think many people saw coming. I knew Liverpool have had a pretty poor season so far, but I don't think many would have expected Leeds to not only not lose against Liverpool, but to pick up all 3 points. Somerville scoring in the 89th minute. It was really a snatch and grab, but it was such an important win for Leeds as well. It raised them out of the bottom three, and it was a perfectly timed moment. And we'll see here if they can continue that form against a Bournemouth team where Bournemouth have definitely not been as strong in their form as they had previously been with Gary O'Neill in charge. In his interview yesterday, he was very critical of the use of VAR going against Bournemouth's chances. Leeds are actually only 1 point behind Bournemouth in the table, so they can overtake them with a win here. As a prediction, based on the squad availability and the performances, I might edge Leeds. Being at home, I think this is definitely a winnable game. Bournemouth will make it easy, but as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory to Leeds. I think they might just be able to scrape with a win here. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Manchester City versus Fulham. So Manchester City played recently in the Champions League against Sevilla, completely conclude their Champions League campaign. With Fulham, obviously, they didn't really play at midweek. The last game they played was against Everton, which was a 0-0 draw. And played some really good football at times, Fulham, I've got to say. I think Marco Silva has definitely taken a fearless approach with his Fulham team and has installed a lot of trust in this Fulham side as well. And they have not let him down. Fulham have, for me, has struck that right balance this time. They've got a manager with enough experience. They've got the right transfers with the right quality and experience as well. It just feels more harmonious at Fulham, which is really nice for me to see. However, against a Manchester City team where even if they don't play Haaland, I still think Manchester City have got one of the best squads in the league on paper. And typically against Fulham, Manchester City have a really enjoyable time playing against them. So I'm going to be intrigued to see if Fulham might do a little bit better and make Man City work a bit more. But realistically, I don't see it. So as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory. But it can obviously be a little bit worse for Fulham's part. I'm giving them a little bit of a chance with them against scoring a goal. And with only it being a 2-goal deficit. So I say 3-1. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. This, I think, is a very crucial game for Nottingham Forest here. They are currently last place in the Premier League. But as I previously mentioned in previous prediction videos, the gap, within the bottom couple of teams is very minimal. In fact, there's a big congestion of teams that really could be involved in the relegation battle. You look at Leeds, who are 15th. There's only 3 points from last place, Nottingham Forest. And that is how close it is in that big part of that table. So a good run of form would definitely be important for those teams in the bottom 5 to try and take themselves away from it, and neither one of them has been consistent enough to really leave the bottom 5 so far, so it's meant that all of them have been congested together. In terms of Brentford I definitely say have gone over in terms of that level. They have picked up more than enough wins to establish them as a mid-table team at this moment of time, although their form suggests it's not been particularly great, with only 2 points picked up in their last 3 games. They did manage to win only 1 out of their last 5, which was a 2-0 victory against Brighton and Hove Albion. A brilliant performance there, but in the rest of them, this could be a good chance for Forest here. And I think at home, Nottingham Forest are a better team than what they are away from home. Away from home, they are absolutely tragic. Can't score and concede way too many. But at home, They do seem to have something going on there. But my only issue is, if Brentford score early, I think Nottingham Forest will struggle with this. They need to be in tip-top shape and need to keep the game close for most of the game, because I think with that experience, I think Forest could then be able to triumph Brentford here. But it's when Brentford score quickly and then they use that experience of making sure that the game is flushed away. So I'm predicting that Brentford will get a goal very early on, and I think they will use that to frustrate Forest, and I think they may pick up all 3 points there. I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory to Brentford, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Forest can shock us here, because I think at home they've been relatively okay. So I'll go for 2-1 Brentford. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game today is Wolves versus Brighton. So a bit similar to the Forest and Brentford situation. You've got a team at home who are around in the bottom 5, and in that case it's the bottom 2 teams, Nottingham Forest and Wolves. And then for Brighton, you've got them in around a mid-table position where they were really struggling with their form. But Chelsea come to town and Brighton completely, and I'm not even exaggerating, completely teach Chelsea a lesson to never underestimate this team. Yes, sometimes they may not take their chances, but I tell you what, when they do, they are absolutely dangerous, and I've learnt that the hard way, seeing them completely demolish Chelsea last weekend. And I think they can have this confidence going into a Wolves team where I don't really see them kicking on with their goals. They've only scored 6 goals so far this season. I mean, every other team has scored at least double digits in goals, and Wolves still got to score 4 goals to even get to double digits. So it tells you how much they're struggling to find the ball in the back of the net, and I think that will be their kryptonite again in this game. So I think it'll be tight, but I think Brighton will edge it. I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory to Brighton. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. So the late game on Saturday's game is Everton-Leicester. I think this will be really close. Leicester's still in the bottom 3, but they have improved their form a little bit. They had back-to-back wins. They lost their last game against Manchester City, but it was a very tight 1-0 game. And Manchester City definitely found it very tricky to get something against Leicester there. They had to rely on a moment of brilliance from Kevin De Bruyne. And I do think Everton, with their 3 defeats in a row that they had recently, I thought they were kind of struggling a bit. But then Frank Lampard has turned around a little bit of form for this Everton side. They managed to win their last home game against Crystal Palace. They were involved in a 0-0 draw with Fulham, with Jordan Pickford making some really crucial saves in that game, actually, I remember. So I do think, based on these 2 teams, I think it's really close, I would have given Everton more confidence, but I think Leicester have improved. As a prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think based on the squads that they've got in their disposal and what players they have available and not from injury, I think it'll just cancel each other out here, which I don't think will really do either team any favour. So I'll go for a 1-1 draw. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now we go to Sunday's games, and I'm dreading this one. Chelsea versus Arsenal. A lot of people interestingly think that Chelsea's main rival is Spurs, but I personally have always had a more deeper hatred of Arsenal. I've always have done. That's how I've grown up as a Chelsea fan, really being irritated of Arsenal. And it always is the most one I can't even bear in terms if we lose to them. And Arsenal do have a better record. They're the only one actually that actually have a better head-to-head record than us. So they are definitely a thorn in our side. And definitely right now they are playing their best football in the Premier League than they have done in very recent years. They've managed to top their Europa League group as well, as have done Chelsea with their Champions League group there. So both teams have picked up positive results in their European games. Fatigue, I think, is going to be interesting. I mean, the squad for Chelsea, we lost Chilwell to injury, and it does really concern me how much the quality dips when we lose 1 or 2 first team players. And that is why Chelsea won't compete with Manchester City. When you get rid of those star quality players, they just don't have the resources and the substitutions and the backups of that same level. And teams take advantage of that. They try and bully those people just being shoved into positions that they're not naturally obliged to. Pulisic in that left wing back was targeted, for instance, and then Sterling as well against Brighton. So there's so many things that I can see, and it's so frustrating at times. I think Arsenal will win this one, which really just, I hate saying, but I think Arsenal are more prepared. I think they definitely got the momentum on their side. I definitely feel like I am a jinx as well, so maybe that might give Chelsea a bit of an advantage here. But this is a big game for Arsenal, actually, for the fact that Man City are playing Fulham beforehand. Man City can go ahead of Arsenal, and if they don't get a good result against Chelsea, Man City could start opening a gap. I'm going to go for a 2-0 away victory to Arsenal, though, and I think if Arsenal win this game, I think this will be a really, really big statement for this team, and they will be right up there in the top 2. But let me know what you think about in the comments down below. Next game today is Aston Villa versus Manchester United. So it's the first home game of Unai Emery in charge of Aston Villa. Obviously, in his debut match for Aston Villa manager, it would be a game week that he would have wanted to forget. A 4-0 battering from Newcastle United there. So definitely the Villa fans, for me, really need to support Emery here. I definitely feel he needs to be welcomed back, and I definitely think he has got the qualities to make Villa succeed. I just have an issue of their balance, especially defence. I think their defence has been their biggest issue this season, to be honest. Manchester United managed to qualify to the round of 16 from the Europa League. They, devastatingly for them, did not finish top of the group, which means they have to play an extra game in the preliminary rounds of the Europa League when they face against the third place Champions League teams. Man United felt they probably should have overtaken Sociedad, so a bit of a frustrating one there. But they could definitely move on, because I think in the Premier League, I definitely think Manchester United have improved with their consistency. I mean, it is 3 wins out of their last 5 games, so they are being a lot more consistent now, and that's including a draw against Chelsea in one of those 5 games as well. So Manchester United are definitely going in the right direction, and I think they may edge something here. I feel Aston Villa will make it tricky, but I think Manchester United will edge it. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 away victory to Manchester United. I think Emery, definitely with his meetings with Manchester United in the past, he tends to get it right. So I am going to be very intrigued to see the battle between Emery and Ten Hag there. I think that's going to be quite a feast to behold. So I'll go for 1-0 Manchester United based on the better squad, in my personal opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game today is Southampton versus Newcastle. Southampton have just been typical Southampton this season, just a bit inconsistent, but not inconsistent enough to be in the bottom 3 and relegated, although they are 17th place at the moment, so Southampton do got to be a little bit careful. Newcastle, however, got the best form in the whole Premier League with 4 wins out of their last 5 games, matching Arsenal's form actually. So both Newcastle and Arsenal with the best form in the league. The only time they dropped points was against Manchester United at Old Trafford as well. So Newcastle are definitely showing up this season. They really, really are, and they will be a threat to top 4 as well. And I do see that form continuing. I don't see Newcastle particularly slowing down anytime soon. They've only lost 1 game so far this season, and I think it will stay that way for quite a while, to be honest. I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory to Newcastle based on the players I've got available. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game today is West Ham Crystal Palace, a London derby. It's always intriguing to see the London derbies, to see what happens with those games. West Ham might be a little bit more fatigued than Crystal Palace, since they did have to play their final Conference League game, but they have topped their group and they won every single point available as well, which I guess is a really good sign that they can balance Premier League and Europa League, or Conference League in their case as well. They're 13th place in the table at the moment, so they are currently 3 points ahead of Leicester, who are 18th place. So I wouldn't say West Ham are completely out of the woods in terms of not entering a relegation battle, but I definitely think with them being a bit more consistent. I know they've only won 2 out of their last 5, but they have had some really difficult games. You know, they narrowly lost 1-0 to Manchester United last game, and I think they were unlucky. They also narrowly lost 1-0 to Liverpool. So West Ham are just like so close, tantalisingly close from competing with the big boys, but they're just falling short. But I do think against Palace, with them being at home, I think they've got enough within them to scrape something here. I think they have been relatively good at home this year. So as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to West Ham. A lot of 2-1s, but It's just more or less me predicting which team would win out of anything rather than getting the score. So I'll go for 2-1 West Ham. Know what you think in the comments down below. Final game to predict for today is Spurs versus Liverpool. So Chelsea, Arsenal and Spurs and Liverpool in the same weekend. We are absolutely spoiled. And honestly, I can't pick which one I think will be more entertaining than the other. You may say Spurs with their brand of football would definitely lower the entertainment factor, but this is a Liverpool team who have been so open at the back this season. And I definitely think that will make things very interesting actually. Liverpool have either been really bad or really good, and we've seen them, play really well, for instance, against Manchester City. They've been responsible of Manchester City's only defeat this season. So Liverpool definitely are still there. It's just making sure that they get that midfield right, and then defensively, I don't know what's happened to them defensively. And then I do think their attack is actually not the issue. I think a lot of people are quick to conclude with the departure of Mane, they've dipped, but I personally think it's a lack of control in that midfield. For Spurs, it was a bit of a stressful week for them in terms of the Champions League, but they did manage to qualify in first place as well, so fair play to Spurs. Liverpool have also qualified, but they qualified in second place, so they could have a pretty tough team in terms of the round of 16 in the Champions League. I'll definitely be keeping my eye on that. I was thinking 2-2, but I've changed my mind last minute, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw actually. I think both teams will have one moment of brilliance, but sometimes with these games it feels like a chess game, so sometimes it doesn't really, explode to the way that I want it to, and I think it might be one of those games. I just don't have any confidence with any team edging one over the other. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Let me know what you think in the comments. So guys, that's all my predictions now done for the Premier League. As I said previously at the start, make sure you put your score predictions also in the comments down below so you guys can get involved in terms of the Lexalexus Football Prediction League for the Premier League. Keep your eyes out because I could be streaming potentially today, potentially in the next couple of days or so. Make sure you keep your eyes out because there's still the odd video coming on from Lexalexus. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It does tremendously out the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button. It really helps the growth of this channel. And please also share the channel too. All of this really does help the growth of this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for the end of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.